So Wes, how knowledgeable are you at Seinfeld trivia?
At one point, I would say that I was like in the top 10 in the country.
Wow.
Well, that's self-proclaimed. As of today, I would say I'm probably slightly above average.
Perfect. That's just what I'm looking for.
Why are you gonna give me the Inquisition?
I am, and there's a reason for that. So, for this week's discussion, we are talking about The Burning.
George's first movie.
George's first movie, that is correct. So, in celebration of our love of Seinfeld and talking about The Burning, because that's something to celebrate, I suppose.
Of course.
Yeah. Throughout the discussion, I'm going to be peppering little George Costanza trivia for you. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm excited because I don't really watch that show much anymore, and I still love it. It's my favorite, but this will be good.
Yes, you and I have a deep, long love of Seinfeld, so.
You could have just stopped it after deep, long love.
This summer, if you're planning to go camping, don't.
All right, so as I mentioned before, this week we are discussing The Burning, which is a 1981 American slasher film directed by Tony Maylam. Its plot follows a summer camp caretaker who is horribly burnt from a prank gone wrong, where he seeks vengeance at a nearby summer camp years later. Now, I don't know if you knew this or not. This is actually based on the New York urban legend of the Cropsey maniac, Andre Rand, an American convicted kidnapper of 2 children and suspected serial killer. He is suggested to have been the source of the Cropsey legend.
Yeah, it's like some New York thing, like you said. And I think that he was the cousin of Ayn Rand, the author. Don't look it up. Just take my word on it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, apparently all these things took place in the between 72 and 87 was his little spree of crime. Yeah.
The thing I remember being disturbing about the documentary was I believe that there was like a young girl with Down syndrome that was murdered, and like it was at the hands of what they thought was Cropsey, and that was a disheartening part of the documentary. But other than that, I don't know a lot about the lore behind it. I'd rather I think the Jersey Devil, which is a lore around that area of the country, is a more interesting lore. But this Cropsey, I think, just was a serial killer that was like escaped from like a tuberculosis place or something.
It's like any urban legend. It just sort of grows and expands from there. And
I watched a documentary on that.
You watched the one on Netflix?
I watched one that it came out in 2009.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's the same. Yeah, I've seen that one before.
Mm-hmm. I fell asleep during it. It wasn't very interesting to me.
No, and people said it was like the scariest documentary ever made. And I watched it I think I was in the Navy and I watched it one night and I'm like, I'm not really scared.
No, it wasn't very good. Maybe because we're not from New York?
Hey, we're not from New York, okay? Forget about it.
Forget about it. Pizza and stuff
and Cropsey, Forget about it. Cropsey.
This was brought together from a screenplay written by Bob Weinstein and Peter Lawrence from a story conceived by its producer, Harvey Weinstein.
That's why I first wanted to get into this movie, because I'm a big fan. I like his work. I like his work outside of film. I'm mostly a fan of what he's done with like the Me Too stuff. So I really wanted us to get into this movie because I've been such a big fan of his for a long time. Ever since Tarantino. He was Tarantino's producer for forever. And I really think that he's a great guy. So I just thought that we should maybe dive into one of his films.
The film marks the debut, as we were mentioning before, of Jason Alexander, Fisher Stevens, and Holly Hunter. So a lot of names in this movie.
We get to see Fisher Stevens' butthole, but where is Holly Hunter at? Out of all those 3 actors, we get to see a lot of George, a lot of Fisher Stevens' butt, and then I don't think that we could pinpoint where Holly Hunter was. You'd really have to try, and I wasn't really trying to look for her.
No, neither was I. Rick Wakeman of the progressive rock band Yes, he composed the score for this movie.
He did a roundabout. Yeah, dude. I used to listen to like really geeky progressive music when I was in high school. I listened to Yes and Rush and Dream Theater and all that stuff. And Rick Wakeman, his keyboards are so cheesy and so funny when you listen to Yes's right anymore, Sean. I can't listen to like the progressive like diddly 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 keyboard music anymore because it's really just sounds awful to me. I'd rather listen to the Stooges where there's no keyboards. Keyboards don't exist in the Stooges library.
I immediately think of Jordan Rudess when you say diddly diddly.
Jordan Rudess. Jordan Rudess is the master of it. Rick Wakeman is more of like, he like uses the organ sound, and it's really awful. Now, Yes was a great progressive band, and Rick Wakeman did not do a lot of film score. He's not like Trent Reznor, where now Trent's just winning Oscars left and right.
He is.
Rick Wakeman did like a few movies in the 80s, and this was one of them. And I don't think he did a bad job, because mostly it's only when we see kills that we can like hear like a lot of his stuff, and plus the intro. But yeah, he's like a known name, and people are huge fans of Yes. So God bless him. More power to him.
The Burning was theatrically released on May 8th, 1981. Now, while the film did not generate the interest nor revenue achieved by other slashers at the time, making only $707,770 against a $1.5 million budget, it has since become a cult classic. It's received positive reappraisal from film critics.
Sleepaway Camp made more money than this did.
Yeah, as you would say, not a big win.
Not a big win. I'm not sure about the timeline, but they released this in Japan, and it made a shit ton of money in Japan. Yeah, it made its money back, and then some, because of the Asian market, but it was not a domestic success. And to be honest, it's funny because this should be a bigger movie than what it was. And Sleepaway Camp, which is a little bit later, should have been a way smaller movie than what it was.
So before we get started, I wanted to kick everything off with a quick Seinfeld trivia question.
Gosh.
Are you ready, sir?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, question number 1. In the cartoon, whom did George's girlfriend Janet look like?
I know who it was. I know the actress. I haven't watched that episode since in probably 15, 20 years. It was the girl that ended up being on the show, Drew Carey show. She played and she was also in Cougar Town, I think. But who did she look like?
Who did she look like?
She looked like the girl that was from the Drew Carey show and Cougar Town.
Wrong, sir. She looked like Jerry.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm thinking of the wrong person. The cartoon, I was thinking of the one where the girl made a caricature picture, like a doodle.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, there was a George's girlfriend. I forgot what I'm not good with the episode names anymore. I remember very well George dating a girl that looked like Jerry. That was really funny.
Yeah. One night at Camp Blackfoot, several campers pull a prank on the caretaker named Cropsey by setting a worm-riddled skull with candles in the eye sockets next to his bed. When the caretaker is awoken by the campers banging on his window, he gets frightened by the skull and accidentally knocks it onto his bed, starting a fire.
He's also sleeping next to a can of gasoline that he spills. I don't know about you. I only have a few things in my bedroom, one of which is a can of gasoline.
So the fact that he's a caretaker doesn't excuse sleeping next to an open can of gasoline?
No, he shouldn't, but I know it's tight quarters.
Very tight quarters.
Yep, so he knocks over the gasoline, which exacerbates the fire, and he runs out on fire, and the kids are all crazy, whatever, and he like runs around. It's a pretty good effect or whatever. I mean, the stunt guy was actually doing a good job. And then he falls down a ravine into like the lake or whatever, and the kids decide to run away.
Shit, I can't believe it. Come on, Spag. Come on.
It sort of started off like a Three Stooges skit where just one bad thing kept happening after another.
There was a series.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, Lemony Snicket's.
Exactly.
The skull itself was a pretty cool thing that they did. And they revealed it. They talked about it for a few minutes, and the kid broke in and was like, gonna whatever. And we didn't actually see what was in that box until Cropsey saw it. It was a pretty good little skull thing.
Yeah, especially made up by a bunch of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd they find the skull?
It was Rocky Dennis's skull.
Despite his horrific injuries, Cropsey survives. A fucking Big Mac. Overdone. You know what I mean?
A fucking Big Mac. Overdone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the orderly was weird. And why was he hazing a doctor?
He was a dick.
Yeah, and the doctor could have been like, hey, Mr. Orderly, I'm an MD. You're an orderly. I don't need to be going through your bullshit.
Right.
But this guy was he wanted this doctor to see this overdone Big Mac. By the way, of all the things that can be overcooked, in my mind, Big Mac would be last on my list. I've eaten probably 1,000 Big Macs throughout my childhood, and I've never had one that was overdone. So, yeah, he could have came up with something better.
He could have. And the fact that he was standing right next to Cropsey's bed and just calling him an ugly monster, and you're going to want to see this shit.
Yeah, you want to see this shit. And once you see this shit, you'll never want to come back to this place. This place is going to make you age. You're going to become an old man after 2 weeks working here.
And you've pointed out the fact that he's talking to an MD who has probably seen quite a bit of shit.
Well, yeah, but he still acted like he was terrified.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, doctors aren't supposed to act like that.
Nope.
And also, doctors aren't supposed to be hazed by orderlies.
No, they're not. They're subordinates. So.
Yep.
5 years later, Cropsey is released from the hospital despite having to deal with failed skin grafts and wears a coat and hat to hide his deformities. The scene where he is walking through the city very much reminds me of the movie Basket Case.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Very guerrilla style filmmaking, aka we don't have a permit to film here, so let's get what we need and haul ass.
Yeah, and that's what they did. And this is back in the grimy, disgusting days of Times Square and whatnot. Like, it reminded me of like Taxi Driver, except for the fact that Taxi Driver is a real movie. Yeah, it's just back in the era when in the 80s and parts of the 90s until they cleaned it all up. That was the nasty part of New York City.
Yes, very.
And he picks up a really weird, older, middle-aged.
That was going to be that's my next note. The most middle-aged prostitute to ever prostitute lures him into her apartment.
Yep. And she keeps saying stuff like, I'm going up if you're coming in. I'm going in if you're coming up. You want to come on up? I'm going in. And then she's like, you gonna take off your bubble, you're gonna take off your hat and your hood and all this stuff. And when he finally does, she gets terrified. And then there is probably the worst Tom Savini effect I've ever seen when he basically murders her and stabs her in the stomach, and it looks really stupid.
It looks very fake. And then I also have a note about the lightning flash, the lightning bolt that flashes across the sky. It's like 1930s Dracula. It's very bad.
It's not good. So he murders Lady of the Night.
Mommy of the Night?
Yeah, Mommy of the Night. Mommy-san.
He then arms himself with a pair of garden shears and sets out to another summer camp, Camp Stonewater. At the camp...
I'm sorry, it's stupid.
What?
I just thought it was stupid.
Which part?
Camp Stonewater.
Is it worse than Camp Arawak or...
No, I loved Camp Arawak.
Or Camp Blackfoot?
No, those are both pretty stupid.
Or Crystal Lake? Why? Crystal Lake.
I love Crystal Lake and I love Arawak, and I do not like Blackfoot, and I do not like Stone River, whatever. Let me dive back real quick. I won't be too long.
Sure.
The history of me with this movie was I saw this at a Brew and View situation, not like an actual Brew and View, like at a bar theater type place, like we talked about with the guest. This was like I think in the Navy, we used to get together on Friday nights and watch horror movies and drink. And when this one came up, and we had a blast watching it, so I always loved it. And I watched it again a few years ago with another buddy drinking, and we had a great time. And then it was my first time watching this movie sober this week, and it was a different story. Spoiler alert.
Not as great as you remember.
No, but we'll get into that. That's all right.
At the camp, the counselors and campers are playing softball when Tiger, one of the campers, goes to search for the ball lost in the woods. She finds the ball and runs back to the game, narrowly avoiding Cropsey. And we get our first look at a very young Jason Alexander.
Yeah, they're talking about the chicks and the butts and stuff.
And George has never looked so good.
Yeah, he's got all his hair and shit.
Yeah, he's got a flat stomach. He's got hair. He looks good.
He looks great. And he's talking to not the situation. He has the situation from the Jersey Shore was like a built, like good looking guy or whatever who would just happen to be a moron.
He is a moron, yeah.
Yeah, this guy, I just kept calling him not the situation. So not the situation and George were having a conversation about a girl's butt. That's prime time beef. You ain't gonna get that, or something like that.
And speaking of George, I do have to say, Jason Alexander plays this character like he does George.
Kind of.
It's young George, basically.
Yeah, he plays like a Long Island kind of like guy, and he ends up being like Red from the Shawshank Redemption, where he's the guy that can find you stuff at the camp. Like he can find you like Hustler magazines and stuff. So yeah, anyway, so the softball game was funny because none of the girls were wearing any support under their shirts.
One girl had no pants on, and I don't know why.
Yeah, she was wearing a bathing suit. That's the girl that not the situation and George were saying, look at that ass right there. I'm like, oh god, who wrote the script? Some pervert? Oh yeah.
Right. It all makes sense now.
It does, especially not the situation. Not as we'll get into it later when he keeps trying to pressure the same girl into making whoopee with him in a not so nice way, in a way that only not the situation could do.
And that all comes to a head later on.
It does. It comes to a head, not the kind that he wanted.
The next morning, a camper named Alfred scares Sally as she steps out of the shower. Her screams bring the attention of counselors Michelle and Todd, and campers Karen and Eddie catch him. Michelle is furious at Alfred's actions and demands that he leaves, but Todd talks to him.
Look, it's not just Glazer. It's everybody. I mean, They're all always picking on me. I don't have any friends.
And he learns that Alfred has no friends and was merely pulling a prank on Sally. It's just a prank, bro.
Which gives him complete and utter carte blanche to go ahead and peep on naked girls or whatever. By the way, his name is Fast Times, because he was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, he was?
Alfred played Ratner in Fast Times. So he's Fast Times. And we have our first nude scene with the girl taking a shower. All she wanted to do, she got up early and she went to take a shower, and she screams because Fast Times is peeking at her, and then we're supposed to feel bad for him because he has no friends. Which, by the way, I'm going to start breaking a lot of laws and rules and stuff in society, and just whenever I get caught, well, I did it because I have no friends.
That's the perfect defense for anything.
Absolutely.
Antisocial behavior? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Sally's boyfriend, Glazer, confronts Alfred, but Todd gets him to back off. A group takes Alfred to the lake to try to get him to swim, but he doesn't know how. Glazer rushes up behind him and pushes him in, but luckily, George is there to save the day. As payback, Ben from Short Circuit shoots him in the ass with a pellet gun, and then we all get to see some Costanza man ass and a quite clear view of Fisher Stevens' balls.
Yeah, his balls and bottom balls.
Now I have a question. I don't know the laws of where this was shot, but I do know that Fisher Stevens at the time was only 16 years old. So the fact that you see what you see, is that a problem?
Well, I don't know. That's why I masturbated to it. Yeah, I thought it was weird. And by the way, he really, when you moon somebody, you don't want to pull them all the way down. You want to pull it down to like the top of your thighs.
Jason Alexander did it just right.
Yeah, he did it like that's the way that I would have mooned somebody back in the day.
Yes.
You don't pull them all the way down. He basically, Ben from Short Circuit, basically pulled his pants down to his knees and spread his bottom so you could see his bottom hole. And also his
legs.
His coin purse.
Yeah, he spread his legs open, which was the problem.
Yeah, so no one actually briefed him on how to moon somebody, because you don't want to show your tiny balls and your asshole.
Yeah, when I was doing the research, I did the research first, and then I watched it, and I saw that Fisher Stevens, his very first film, he was only 16 years old. Okay, cool. And
let's take a look at his balls.
Yeah, and then I was watching the movie. I was like, wait a minute, is that a legal problem? I mean, that's a minor, technically, right?
It doesn't matter, dude. In my book, if you're 16 and you want to show off your asshole and your balls, you can.
That night, Alfred spots Cropsey outside his window, but nobody believes him.
I saw it was there.
Well, there sure as hell ain't nothing out there now.
The following day, the campers are brought by Todd and Michelle on a canoe trip down to the river Devil's Creek. Now, this next scene is just like Friday 2's campfire scene with young Jeff Daniels. Todd is telling everybody the story of Cropsey, and it even comes complete with a man that jumps out of the shadows wearing a mask to scare everybody at the end.
Simply Red Ted.
Right. Simply Red Ted, only this time it was not the situation.
It was not the situation.
Not the situation is now Simply Red Ted.
Yep, they're the same part, basically, except for the fact that Simply Red Ted was a much more likable person in that movie than not the situation, in my opinion.
Karen and Eddie go to the lake to go skinny dipping. When two people like each other, they do it.
If two people like each other, if they want each other, so you do it.
Yeah, they do it. Like not the situation was like, yeah, but they do it. So why are you doing this? And he gets her naked, and he gets naked first and jumps in, and then he gets her naked. And at that point, he's probably thinking that he's in. And she admitted earlier in the film that she was scared of him, even though she does feel good sometimes when she's around him. And at this point, he has kind of a bad moment when he's trying to get her in the water, when they're in the water together, and he's trying to get her to whatever. They're kind of canoodling, and she kind of backs off a little bit, and not the situation, goes off. He's not happy. He says, so why are you doing this shit again? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, get the fuck out of my face. And she like goes to like leave, and she can't find her clothes because Cropsey's put him on, he like hit him all around the wooded area.
Now, do you think that Harvey wrote Eddie as sort of a reflection of himself? Because that would make sense to him, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what he that's what I think that his MO is.
Yeah.
So there's like 3 or 4 different parts in this movie to where you're like, oh yeah, this probably was written by by that fucking monster Weinstein.
I feel like Glazer is a little bit of Weinstein in there too.
Yeah, that guy, I wasn't sad to see him go either, but he has a little more sympathy going his way. A little bit more, because he's not quite as bad as Not the Situation.
He's not rapey, but he's definitely an asshole. And Weinstein is a notorious bully. Not just a rapist, but he's a bully towards other people too.
Yeah.
So these characters make a lot of sense when you realize who but who came up with the idea for this film.
Yes. Watching this now sober after a few years and watching it knowing what we know now about the monster that was behind the making of this movie, it made a lot more sense, and it made it a lot less fun to watch, I thought, personally. Or maybe I just should have watched it drinking again. I don't know.
Yeah, I sort of blocked that part out when I was watching it, but when I saw some of the more dirtbag characters, it made sense.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
Yeah.
Like, at least in like Friday Part 2, which we're going to compare this to because they were coming out at the same time, and Tom Savini actually chose this one over that one because he didn't want to fuck around with Jason. The dudes in that movie were pretty cool and funny and laid back, and the dudes in this movie are all fucking rapey and weird and fucking Jersey Shore acting like weirdo. You know, I didn't like it. None of these people are any good. Jason Alexander's George was kind of fun to watch, and what's his name, the peeping Tom, Fast Times at Ridgemont High kid, he was a little bit sympathetic because he had no friends, even though he was a fucking he basically committed, what do you want to call it, he would have made himself on a list at some point in his life with this character. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I didn't have a good time watching this movie.
It sort of makes sense. Like,
I'm with you.
If Harvey Weinstein had any hand in the writing of this movie, yeah, of course, it would have made sense. Well, I mean,
he had a hand and it was on his cock, asking for a massage or whatever he does.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can just, in the writer's room, well, I mean, Harvey, the girl doesn't want to have sex with him. Yeah, so what? Just he makes her do it, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do, isn't it?
I like you, you like me, so we gotta get together.
Even if she doesn't like me, it doesn't matter.
Yep. So Not the Situation, in my opinion, is one of the least fun people to watch in a kind of a otherwise fun slasher movie.
I agree.
I fucking hated him.
I agree.
Yeah, not supposed to like him.
No. And on that note, sir.
Shit.
It's time for another round of Seinfeld trivia. George tells Jerry, I don't know if it was the alcohol or the ammonia, but the next thing I knew, she was mopping the floor with me. Who was mopping the floor with George?
Was it, oh shit. I'm getting him confused again because he had a little fling with a Guatemalan waitress, I think.
Close.
But yeah, I know I'm close, but once again, like I said, I haven't rewatched Seinfeld for years and years. Why don't you just tell me the answer to the question?
That would be the cleaning woman. The cleaning woman is from the episode The Red Dot.
What's that red dot on your sweater?
Yeah.
So I'm 0 for 2.
As she collects them, Cropsey slashes her throat with his shears.
Boom. See you at the crossroads. What's her name?
Karen.
Hey, Karen. See you at the crossroads. Sorry. Nice to know you. You did a bang up job. You didn't bang the situation, not the situation. But at least she didn't give in to his disgusting antics.
Absolutely. The next morning, Michelle finds Karen and the canoes missing. Eddie, Fish, Woodstock, Diana,
Yeah, I think so.
and Barbara search for the canoes on a makeshift raft. They spot a canoe and paddle to it, but Cropsey ambushes them by jumping out from the canoe and savagely murders them all with his shears.
Yeah, let's stop here.
Please, let's do.
So Tom Savini, God bless him, he chose this movie over number 2, Friday.
Turned down Friday the 13th Part 2 to do the burning because Jason was running around in Friday the 13th Part 2. And as you know, there is no Jason. Jason was a kid that died in the first movie. If you watch a Friday the 13th movie past Part 1, you're stupid.
This was a highly ambitious scene that he was in charge of the special effects. They're not good, but they are ambitious. Did you like them?
Well, I was going to say the effects are varying degrees of success.
They're mostly not good here, but they are really in your face.
I would say,
literally.
Yeah, I would say the cutting off of the fingers is a better effect than the stabbing through the throat.
Yeah, Fisher Stevens' butthole lost some of his fingers with that scene. Yeah,
He did.
The situation got a shear through the neck, and a couple of girls and whatnot had gotten like sliced in the face and stuff. Yeah, it takes you by surprise a little bit, even though it does build suspense as the raft is approaching that canoe, and you're gonna think, oh, maybe we're gonna find a dead body. Well, no, Cropsey pops up and violently murders everybody. And this was the MPAA. They had to really fight for a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good scene. It takes you by surprise. The effects are not good, but it's Tom Savini. He was still relatively young. So we like this scene, don't we?
I would say that the girl who gets slashed across the forehead, that looks really good.
Yeah, she gets lacerated.
Yeah, that effect looks really good, I think.
Okay, the rest of them aren't that good.
I would rank them from head slash is at the top, finger cutting is in the middle, and that throat stab is the very bottom.
The last, after he gets the thing through his neck, and you could tell that his face was sticking out through the bottom of the raft, and the fake neck and it was pretty bad. It was pretty egregious, but
you can see the actor's real neck sticking up from all the sleeping bags and backpacks and stuff. It's not good. It's bad.
Mm-hmm. It's really bad, but this is what made the movie famous, to be honest. It's still, if you look up this movie,
that's the scene.
People are talking about this scene mostly. Yeah.
Ew.
The famous raft scene.
Now, is it famous because of how bad it is?
I think most people like it.
It leaves a lot to be desired.
It leaves a lot to be desired. And plus for Tom Savini, whose people would say might be the best at what he did throughout this whole period, I would still say that he was trying to find his footing with how things looked. When let's say that he did a lot more movies after this. He would have done a better job after this than what he did here.
Okay, I will make the argument then. He did the exact same effect with Kevin Bacon that he did with Not the Situation.
It was the effect was much better.
The effect of his earlier work on that first Friday movie is 10 times better than what he did here. So what happened?
I think it was because of the placement of the body, and I know that Kevin Bacon talks about this, and the way that he was kind of contorted himself for that part made it look more real. And plus it came up from the bottom on the Friday the 13th, right?
It did.
And that was easier than what they had done with this one, because it couldn't come up from the bottom of the raft. So he was already came up and rised up on them and came down on his jugular.
Glazer has sex with Sally in the woods, but Glazer is gone in 60 seconds.
Is it?
He's gone in 60 seconds, and he's a 2-pump chump. And as they're doing it, she sounds very uncomfortable. But then after he finishes early, she's mad.
It'll be better next time, baby. Trust me.
Trust me, baby.
Mm-hmm. So I'm like, so if it was so uncomfortable and bad, why do you care that it's over? She's like, that was it? He's like, I'm sorry, baby. The next time we do this, it's going to be much better. Like, okay, dude. I would say that literally it went from bad to over for her in about the span of 25 seconds.
When he leaves to get matches for a campfire, Cropsey shoves his spears into Sally's chest.
Yeah, she blocks him for a second, though.
She does. She fights back.
Yeah, no one else does.
Nope. Her boyfriend returns only for Cropsey to stab him through the neck and pin him to a tree.
Yeah, he picks him up like with a shear through his neck, and then
Cropsey's got that strength.
He's got that old man strength like Ralph.
Yep, he's got Mrs. Voorhees strength.
Mrs. Voorhees strength, yep.
Alfred witnesses his death and wakes up Todd.
Glazer's dead.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No, really.
But Todd is rendered unconscious by Cropsey, who then chases after Alfred.
Yeah, he lacerates the counselor, and then Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he runs away. And then now we have like a chase scene coming up.
Was it just me, or did Cropsey very weakly, is that a word, weakly?
Yeah, sure.
Flimsily, sort of bump Todd with the shears, and then Todd got knocked out.
Yeah, everybody else he's like brutal with, but with the one guy that he really wants to kill because he was a part of that group at the beginning, he gives him just like a little bit of a laceration on the face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Todd regains consciousness, and after Michelle finds the mutilated bodies on the makeshift raft.
So now all the kids are dead on the raft. And correct me if I'm wrong, we cut to the surviving kids and the counselor, mostly the female counselor, and they're hanging out, and all of a sudden they see the raft come floating by with some bodies on it, and Costanza is like about ready to jump out there, and he was like yelling like, "Hey, the prank's over. We know you guys. They're just acting like they're sleeping, or the jig is up." And he goes to run out and take off his shirt, and the female counselor, the older one's like, "George Costanza, stop. I'm gonna go ahead and take off my shirt and go in there." Now she had a bathing suit on, and so she swims out there, and all of a sudden she puts her hand out to reach for someone's arm that's on the raft, and the arm, I think it's Fisher Stevens' arm, comes off. No, Fisher Steven actually pops up from the water, and it just looks pretty fucking stupid and funny, I think. But
all right, sir, it is time for another Seinfeld trivia question. Are you ready?
Things can't get any worse. I have to get one right. Let's do it.
In The Maestro, what gift does George give to the security guard at a men's clothing store?
It's a nice rocking chair.
You are correct.
Yeah, it's a rocking chair. He feels bad. It's Susan's family's place, and he decides to take it upon himself to, he felt bad. He couldn't sleep at night knowing that guard was not able to sit.
This is a bonus question, sir. As a result of the gift, what ends up happening?
Surprise to no one, he falls asleep, and a silent assailant, a robber, is silently robbing the place, pointing a gun at everybody to be quiet.
He tells her to take the remaining campers back to the camp to contact the authorities.
There's a helicopter coming in like an hour or something. Fast Times is running away, and they go to like some kind of mine shaft or something. Whatever, I don't know what that is.
They do. Cropsey
Yeah.
grabs Alfred inside an abandoned mine shaft and pins him to a wall with his shears.
A lot of overacting by Fast Times. He's
Yes.
like, "Ah! Ah!" And you could like, just all the close-ups of Fast Times' face are not good. He's not a good actor.
Todd discovers a horribly cropped picture of Karen's body and sees Cropsey
I'm not
armed.
gonna let you get away with it. A horrible crop seed picture.
Todd discovers a horribly crop-seed picture of Karen's body and sees Cropsey armed with a flamethrower, where he begins to
Yeah.
remember being involved with the prank that caused the accident in the first place.
Yeah, like he had forgotten.
I didn't realize this either.
Well, it was pretty predictable, I thought.
Oh, see, I didn't see it coming. He's attacked by Cropsey, who reveals his disfigurements, and Alfred frees himself to stab him with his own shears. Before they can leave, Cropsey reappears, and Todd ultimately slams the axe into his face, killing him. Alfred ignites his body with his own flamethrower, and they make their way outside to Michelle, who brought the police with her as Cropsey's body burns away. At a campfire, another group of teenagers are seen retelling the story of Cropsey, and that, Wes, is where the movie ends.
That's the film.
So, Wes, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts, your final grading on The
Okay.
Burning?
Yeah, let's compare this to Friday 2. It's not like a worse movie. It's not as fun. The characters aren't as fun. There's a lot more hateable characters. You had Not the Situation, who was a rapist, and you had Glazer, who was a rapist, almost, and also a two-pump chump. So you had those two guys that we all hated the whole time. The girls are hot in this movie. George is in this movie. Holly Hunter's in this movie, which we still couldn't pinpoint, but that's okay. I'm sure you could if you really tried. I didn't try. Harvey Weinstein is a hero. Tom Savini is a hero with his horrible effects at the famous scene on the raft. If we're gonna compare it, let's go ahead and compare it. Friday 2, I think I gave like a B or B plus or something like that too. I love that, and it is more fun. This isn't as fun. It's more doom and gloom, and it's more rapey. Probably because hero Harvey Weinstein is involved, and who knows what all he wrote. But I'm guessing most of the rapey stuff he wrote because he's a fucking awful person. So I'll give this like a C plus. And when I first watched it at a Bruin View, it was fun, and I probably would have gave this like as a slasher like a B plus. But watching it for what it is, sober by myself, it's like a C plus movie. Decent slasher. It belongs in the list of good slashers because good slashers are hard to come by. How say you, Sean?
I'm going to give this just a C, a solid C. And I don't know if that's because of burnout, the overabundance of killer camp horror movies that we've been watching lately, because we we've done so many of those lately, and I think by the time we got to this movie, I think I'm just a little burnt out.
Yes, me too.
They all sort of start to blend together after a while.
They do. Yep. That's why I was comparing this one with the Friday and Friday 2. Let me know what you think about those, or let me know how you would put this up against those, if you will.
They're better than this.
You think both of them are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I still have more fun watching this than the first because there's more interesting stuff going on, even though there is a lot of dumbass rapey dudes. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that I'd rather watch this than number 1, but number 2 is more fun.
No, listen, I'm not saying that I didn't like this movie. I did. It very much reminds me of other movies like this that I like, and there's some unique moments in it that make it its own film, but overall, as a whole, yeah, it's very much like the other movies that we've been watching a lot of lately. And again, I don't know if that's summer camp killer fatigue or what it is, but yeah, this was just a C to me. I mean, a lot of familiar elements, but again, a lot of original ones too. I like the Tom Savini kills, even the bad ones.
Even the bad ones are fun to watch.
Even the bad ones are fun to watch. Yeah.
Wait, are you saying that we're burned out by The Burning?
I think The Burning did it. I think The Burning did it. It tipped
the Burning done. The Burning done did burn us out.
It did. All right, sir. Let's end the episode on one more Seinfeld trivia question. All right. In The Diplomats Club, George says that his boss, Mr. Morgan, looks like what famous boxer?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
You are correct. Yes. Yeah. And now, as a special bonus, joining us live in studio, it's Jason Alexander.
On the next bizarre show.